How do you deal with an avoidant 5 sensory as a 6 sensory? I'm not talking about the securely attached 5 sensory, the type of person who knows how to express their feelings and tell you what's on their mind. I'm talking about the 5 sensory who doesn't like to talk very much. They don't like to share their feelings. They don't like to tell you much about their day. Their answers are very short if you ask them any questions. And the way to handle them is to love them enough to give them their space and accept them for who they are. Now, that doesn't mean you accept bad behavior. You do want to set boundaries with them, but you also want to give them lots and lots of space to behave well. That means we want to be really careful about initiating conversations, initiating intimacy, initiating paying for things. We want to give the 5 sensories space to do that. When they feel empowered to do that themselves, that's when they feel that they're in their empowered energy. That's when they feel good. And when we give them the opportunity to do that, rather than take it away from them as 6 sensories by trying to do everything ourselves, we are quite guilty of that as anxiously attached types of intuitives. If we are that way, we tend to be the one who wants to jump in and mother the 5 sensory. We jump in to pay if we don't see them paying right away. We jump in to show affection if they're not really being that responsive to us. And what we want to do instead is lean back, because the avoidant 5 sensory needs space. We have to really go against that instinct to bother them out of our own anxiety, because we want to feel connected. We feel our best when we are with other people, but they really connect by spending time alone, or maybe spending time with other 5 sensories who are also avoidant. And if we mother them too much and give them too much affection and energy, that can actually push them away. And that can be very confusing to us as 6 sensories. It's like, what? Like, I'm being loving to them, I'm being nice. Why would they not like that? Like, why would they not receive that well? And it's because that's not their love need. So our love need as 6 sensories is we enjoy that certainty. We enjoy having someone in our lives who commits to us and wants to be there and wants to communicate to us, wants to initiate conversations, initiate dates, and initiate lots of loving time together. But when we're the ones trying to meet our own needs vicariously by giving that need to the 5 sensory first, who is avoidant, that is the opposite of their love need. So we all have a mix of a little bit of everything, but the avoidance dominant love need is that they need their space and mystery. They need to wonder about who you are as a 6 sensory. It's better to not reveal too much about your life, about your spirituality, or what you're up to, because that's when they connect with you the best. And this has to be a lifelong task. It's like, well, how do I stay mysterious if we end up getting married and sharing a household together? It's like, they're in my space. And you can always find psychological space from a person in a household. Think about it. Like, when you were a teenager and you live with your parents, you're still dependent on them, but you are growing into your own adult. You weren't fully an adult yet, but you had that psychological space away from your parents where you had your own identity. You were probably not a carbon copy of your parents. Even if you were like a golden child and you were trying really hard to be obedient to your parents, there's probably some inner part of you that rebelled and had its own identity. And you were like, I'm not going to be the same as my parents. I'm going to do something different. I'm going to have a more exciting life. I'm going to have more rewarding or free life, or whatever it is that you were yearning for as a teenager. You had that space away from your parents to be your true self. And in the same way, you need to have that space psychologically from a 5 sensory to be your own true self as an adult. Not in the sense that you don't like the 5 sensory or you don't want to be there in the relationship, but you have your own realm that is your inner world that is separate from the 5 sensory. And you don't need to share that world with them. That space has its own legitimacy. And the 5 sensory can be invited in if they're interested, but if they want to remain in their own space and do their own thing, then you leave them alone to do their own thing and you trust them. That means that you're not checking in on them to make sure they're not cheating on you. That means You're not checking in on them to make sure they're not addicted to drugs or they're addicted to spending money. Whatever that is that you're fearing that they'll do, you have to be able to trust them if you're in that intimate relationship with them until they've proven themselves untrustworthy, and then you have to decide what the consequences of that are. But you can't be checking in and trying to trick them into revealing their bad behavior, because that goes against the fabric of trust that is supposed to be your relationship. So you give them their space and you have your own, and you be true to yourself. And that's how you get along with an avoidant 5 sensory. Don't keep nagging at them to do something that they haven't done, that they don't feel the initiative to do. Instead, leave it undone. Have the discipline to ignore these things rather than nag about them or complain or do them on your own. Or if you want to do it on your own and you don't have any attachment, like you're not going to feel any resentment towards the 5 sensory about it, you could do it on your own. But if you're going to feel resentment about it later, like they should have done it, then leave it undone and let it go. And then if there's a problem around the house, then you let them know that you were expecting them to do it and that you're too busy to handle this at the moment. And then that conversation gets opened up when the avoidant is ready to have the conversation, rather than trying to force that kind of conversation on them, which is never going to go well. That is going to lead to a breakup and a divorce if you're married. So don't try to force them into responsibilities if they are not ready to address those responsibilities. Let them discover what their responsibilities are on their own through their own process, without you interfering and nagging and telling them what they're supposed to be doing. And that way you maintain the integrity of the relationship, which is actually way more important than whatever household chore you're wanting to get done. It's like, well, when you want the trash taken out, yes, the place might stink a little bit, but do you prefer having a slightly stinky house and a relationship intact? Or do you want to really be militant about taking the garbage out and have no relationship? You see what I mean? So that's the way you deal with the avoidant 5 sensory.